West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt, and with me as ever is my partner in crime, Santokie Nagilendran. Santokie, how you doing?
Yeah, Mash, we're back. We're here to do a series review, West Indies versus Bangladesh. But Mash, before we get into the cricket, obviously, some things are more important than cricket, as everyone would have seen on the news. The devastation caused in Jamaica by Hurricane Melissa hit parts of Haiti and Cuba as well. And, you know, it's obviously going to be a massive rebuilding effort for the nation of Jamaica. So as you can see below, if you would like to support the relief fund for Jamaica post-Hurricane Melissa, please go to supportjamaica.gov.jm. Obviously, like, thoughts and prayers out to everyone in Jamaica at the moment who suffered with the impact of Hurricane Melissa. So, Mash, we're here, you know, it's a rare occasion because we're out here celebrating, you know, West Indies, 3-0. Bangladesh, they went to the subcontinent. They picked up a 3-0. Darren Sammy has done it again. And you know what? I'm going to preempt what all the unks and all the West Indies haters who claim to support West Indies are going to say, because they'll say it's only Bangladesh. My counter will be, coming off the loss to Nepal, we lost 7 bilateral T20 series in a row as well. To pull off a 3-0 win in the subcontinent, when there's a World Cup in the subcontinent in only 4 months' time, for me, this is more important than the upcoming T20 games in New Zealand, for instance, where conditions are going to be massively different from the World Cup. So we have to salute, you know, the West Indies for pulling off this win. And it does, obviously, it's not a permanent change. It's not like we can say we're going to win the World Cup, but it's a positive step at the right time when we needed it.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it any better, if I'm honest with you. I think the last time you were on, you made a very valid point, which is that West Indian fans have to get used to looking at series in context. And this series was almost in a standalone context, had to be seen as we're playing a subcontinent World Cup in about 5 months' time. This, objectively speaking, tells us more than the New Zealand series in New Zealand seeming conditions will tell us, irrespective of if we even beat New Zealand. Yes, that will count for, I guess, motivation and form and confidence, but those conditions won't be mimicked in Sri Lanka and India. So and Santokie, we should add, Bangladesh went into this series with 4 series wins in a row. Against Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Netherlands, and someone else who I'm forgetting right now, probably Nepal or someone, right? So it's not like we were playing like, because of some people's fixation around Darren Sammy, some people try to downplay this and go, it's just Bangladesh, but we were away from home. We were down rotten for the whole of 2025 in T20s. So I guess in a footballing context, Santokie, this would be the equivalent of Wolves, who are bottom of the Premier League with 2 points, beating an upwardly mobile, in the context of Bangladesh winning 4 in a row, beating an upwardly mobile mid-table Premier League side. No one sees it coming. And you're like, You know what? It is like no use of caveating and going, but Wolves do have a chance of beating Brighton. It's still a comprehensive victory, all things told.
Yeah, and I think it was important that there were contributions from a few players. Obviously, Roston Chase and Ackeem Auguste, who we'll get onto, both with half centuries today. Shea Hope hit a half century in one of the previous games. Alec Afanase as well in one of the earlier games came with the runs. Everyone sort of chipped in, and obviously the bowling, we saw Holder, Romario Shepherd, Akil Hussain, Kari Pierre, all sort of chip in. So it was a collective effort to get this 3-0. Obviously, the quality wasn't as high as you'd expect from 2 full member nations, but it is what it is. You can only beat who's in front of you. And there's a lot of promise to take from that. So where should we start, Mash? Who do we want to focus on as sort of our key batters who kind of put themselves up there as, you know, key men in Sammy's side with this series?
Okay, so in order to answer that, I'm going to kind of go a long way round in answering that, because before this series started, and hopefully you understand why I'm doing this, before this series started, I said that I thought that at least 13, if not 14, of the World Cup places were already secured, and that really anybody else in the side was fighting for one more spot. So just to remind people of who I thought, first and foremost, those places were, I figured prior to this series that the following players will be going to, and this is what I want. So I'm going to answer your question about who's impressed, Santokie, but I think I've got to almost reverse Uno it on you, just because I think the first place we should actually go is whose place is in jeopardy. What we start looking at. So these players,
man said no time for celebrating.
Listen, we celebrated for about 4 sentences. Now we need long-term impact, right? Before this series started, I would have said that King, Lewis, Hope, Chase, Rutherford, Powell, Holder, Shepherd, Hussein, Moty, Alzari when he's fit, Seals as probably the extra pacer, Hetmier, maybe even Shamar Joseph. I would have said that those 14 were probably going to go to the World Cup, leaving only one more spot. We're only taking 15 men to the World Cup, leaving only one more spot. This is now where I answer your question. In this series, we have seen at the back end of the series, Ackeem Auguste obviously hit a really good 50 today off 25 balls. Amir Django opened and scored 34 off something like 17 balls. Obviously, that's impressive. Shea Hope was brilliant across the first 2 matches, but he's a lock. So really, if we focus on the Auguste and we focus on Amir Django, with Jaden Seals with the ball, we've really got to try and focus on the people whose positions may not be, maybe they're not in the World Cup reckoning. Oh, Alec Athanaze as well, who's hit, what did he score again in that second one? Was it 60 odd? Can't even 50 odd, 50 something. I think it was like 55 or 30 or something like that. So Alec Athanaze is another name we need to talk about. So Auguste, Django, Athanaze. Let's start with those 3. When you look at that 15-man squad that I said with 1 position spare, I think there are question marks about Rutherford, question marks about Hetmier, question marks about King, question marks about Moty. Those are the only players in the squad who I think would be sweating a tiny piece about whether they can go, whether there's any danger of them. Oh, Carrie Pierre played in this series as well. Whether there's any danger in them going to the World Cup. So let's try and mesh those 2 arguments together, Santokie. Who's at risk versus can you see any of Auguste, Django, Alec Athanaze, Carrie Pierre forcing their way in?
Yeah, I didn't think we'd be saying this a year ago, but Shafane Rutherford will be sweating. If we look at his Bangladesh numbers, the ODIs and T20s, he scored 0, 7, 12, and then 2 ducks in a row, and then didn't play in today's one. So he didn't put any runs. And as we said, if Sammy's looking at this as being a subcontinent pitch, which is going to, be similar to what we'll see in India, he'll be looking at Rutherford and looking at Ackeem Auguste. Ackeem Auguste hit 5-6 today, like nonchalantly, like power hitting. Kind of goes to what Sammy sort of likes, that big power hitting middle order batter. So Ackeem Auguste has thrown his name in there. I don't want to cast judgment now and say it's a definite swap, like Auguste is definitely coming in, Rutherford's out. But it does raise question marks. If they both go to New Zealand, which I'm expecting they will, maybe that will be like a shootout almost to see who can sort of perform in different conditions and who's sort of overall in more form. So yeah, Ackeem Auguste is definitely up there. With Ackeem Auguste, with what he did against some parts against Nepal and then in this series and his age and him being West Indian, it wouldn't surprise me if he got an IPL deal, to be fair, like in November. If I could see a franchise.
Has he not got one of them down bad T10 league deals straight after this? He got something off the back of what he did in Nepal. I think it's one of them down bad leagues.
Abu Dhabi T10, it must be. I think. So if I'm Rutherford, I'm sweating. If I'm Hetty, I'm sweating anyway because Hetty, I don't know what's going to happen with Hetty. Is he going to show up for West Indies again? Is Hetty that good enough for us to just give him a pass and be like, all right, cool, he's not playing these matches, but he'll come in for the World Cup in India? It could be Sammy could think, all right, this guy's played so many years in the IPL, he knows the stadiums inside out. We could bring him in as a finisher, but Hetty's definitely going to be sweating out here. Who else did we say? Moty?
Moty, yeah, there's a big question mark around
Moty.
Remember, Moty just played this last game. Didn't get in game 1. Didn't get in game 2. Played today's game. They gave him 1 over. He got licked down. He never bowled again.
Yeah, because when was that? That over was like 11 or 12, right? It was later on. It wasn't even as if like they gave him the ball early on, and he got licked down. And the dumb thing is, like, we rested him from the India series because to play these white ball games, and now it's looking like man's out of the white ball side because when we're going to New Zealand, we're only going to need one full-time spinner. So Hussein's going to take that, right? If Hussein's available, even if Hussein wasn't available, at this point, Curry Pierre's probably going to come in as a second spinner, ahead of Moty. So Moty's falling down the pecking order. So Moty's got to be sweating. I think realistically, Moty and Akil Hussein will still be our two frontline spinners in India where you'll need it. I think this series, Sammy was testing out Curry Pierre, right? Just to kind of see an alternative option. But regardless, considering Moty was without question, like you couldn't even question it 18 months ago, number one in all formats. It's a down bad drop, you know. And I think Moty, I'm sure he'll play these T10 down bad leagues as well. If I was Moty and I was thinking about my career, I would go back and play Super 50 or something if I wasn't getting picked for the New Zealand tour, just for something to kind of get my rhythm again and get into that, because the T10 league's not going to teach him much. He'll bowl 2 overs there at a time, but obviously the bag's there. But looking long term, massive concern over Moty, and it's a big concern for West Indies because Moty was at one point a virgin on a world-class spinner. I don't think he reached that level yet. And he's of the age where he could be long-term next 10 years. And now we've sort of seen him falling down the pecking order. And there's no time or no resources to sort of work on his action at the moment or work on any problems. So it's a massive question mark over all three, you know. It's looking down bad for Guyana at the moment, you know.
Listen, I think I'll just touch on some of those points that you raised. I think you're right to say that gone are the days where I think you can make special dispensation for Shimron Hetmier. Yeah. I think for me, if he's not already, he's one more making himself unavailable from making himself unpickable for the World Cup. I think it was very pointed to me that Sammy took time to say in that press conference, obviously never mentioned his name, but that's who he was talking about when he said, if you ring a man and he says he's unavailable, how many more times you ask that man if he's available to play for the West Indies? So I think we're one more series away from Hetmier making himself unavailable. And then Santokie, I'd move on from him. I've tried my best to advocate for Shimron and tried my best to say, let's put a mentor in around him and let's do this and let's do that. But at the end of the day, like when you tie together inconsistent performances with unavailability, at some point you just have to say, you know what, it just go play the down bad leagues and do you in it, because you can't. The World Cup's 5 months away. At least Puran had the decency to just retire and say, I don't want any business with it. You can't have 5 months out a man saying, yeah, I'm just not available in it. And Russell had the decency to say, I'm done. Like I'm done in it. It's like 6-7 months before the World Cup. So appropriate changes can be made. Hetmier, as we sit here right now, none of us, much less Darren Sammy, have any idea if he'll make himself available for any series.
Yeah, because so we got New Zealand. I doubt Hetmier. I'd imagine the New Zealand series is basically the players just carrying on from Bangladesh, right? So I don't think Hetmier is going to fly to New Zealand. Then we play South Africa in 3 T20s, but those clash with so many franchise leagues. I don't know if Hetmier is going to play that. So is it a case of, cool, we pick Hetmier for the World Cup, and what sort of message is that sent to the guys that have played all these bilaterals over the last 6 months? Because I think if you're a player, realistically, you know the levels, right? So you know if a Puran or J. Ross, when they were sort of picking and choosing bilaterals, you know their levels are a different level, right? So you can make a dispensation. Hetmier's got no receipts for that. What has he been doing to justify this sort of special treatment? So I personally don't think Hetmier is going to go to the World Cup in the end. I think of all the 3 names, Shafane Rutherford, Hetmier, Moty, Hetmier's virgin on most likely to not make it. I think Rutherford, Sammy likes him, trusts him, and this could just be a certain lean patch. Will still go, and I think Moty will go just because it's India, right? And we need the extra spin. So Hetmier is definitely one that's a cause for concern. But like you said, Mash, I'm almost past the point of caring, because it doesn't. He never justifies our hopes, right? It's not like he comes back every time and hits like a century or something. It's like he always fumbles anyway. So what are we looking forward to with him coming back?
This is it. Let me bring up some points. So M88 says Rutherford is a must at the World Cup, which is fine. I'm not criticizing that point. Well, I might in a bit. But then he followed it up with King should be nowhere close to first choice. Now, here's the thing. I don't see how those 2 points can be different, because when I did the review of the second T20 win, I brought up some stats about Rutherford, right? Rutherford has scored less than 10 runs in 8 of his last 13 T20 international innings. He scored a duck 4 times in his last 13 T20 international innings. Now, that's not making an excuse for Brandon King. There must be scrutiny over Brandon King as well. But for me, you can't say Rutherford is a must, but then King isn't a must. Like, down bad is down bad. Like, obviously, I'm with you, Santokie. I expect Rutherford to go to World Cup. Yeah. Sammy has invested in him. He clearly believes in him. In the same reason why I believe that King will go to the World Cup. Sammy has invested in him. He clearly believes in him. But both of them are due a level of scrutiny. But there's no way you can just say, well, Rutherford must go there because he's Rutherford. No, he must get some scrutiny at the same time as well, because let's call a spade a spade. It's not good enough, Santokie. You can't have a middle order batter just scoring less than 10, 75% of the time. That don't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. And Ackeem Auguste has shown the explosive nature of his batting, and the thing is, he played well. The way he kind of his wrist movements and his movements, he played well against spin. So it's gonna be interesting coming up where we go from there. If we turn our attentions to the bowling mash, Romario Shepherd doing Romario Shepherd things. Out here. Took a hat trick today. Took 3 wickets in the last match, 2 wickets in the first match. We know with Romario Shepherd, when he's good, Like he can play well. It's just it's not consistent. For the next match in New Zealand, he could go for 4 overs for 55 runs, right? No wickets, because it's just how Romario Shepherd's play. But when he's good, he's good. I felt Jason Holder supported him well, chipped him with the wickets. Jason Holder's clearly sort of earmarked T20 as his format now. That's what he's digging in on. Jaden Seals contributed in the first match for 3 wickets. Akil Hussain as well did what we expect from Akil Hussain. My only concern is Kari Pierre wasn't that effective. He got taken for licks in one of the matches, only bowled 1 over, I think, in that one. And then obviously Gudakesh Moty went for licks. So in terms of building up a second spinner, we haven't got an obvious second spinner candidate. I think it's still Moty at this point in time, but we haven't got 2 spinners who are working in tandem. Like, remember 2016 when Narayan pulled out, we still had Suleiman Ben, and he pulled up and worked with Badri, and they worked together in tandem. I think we haven't got that, and that's a cause for concern in India. But other than that, as far as our bowling can go, obviously Shamar was missing, Azari was missing. But as far as our bowling went for this conditions, it was a great performance from our bowling across the 3 games. We took 28 out of the 30 Bangladesh wickets. So I think Sammy has no real justifiable complaints about the bowling performance and the way they stood up in this series.
No, I agree with you. I do wonder with Romario, and I'll hold my hands up and say Romario outperformed my expectations. And he's to be credited for that. I think Romario will always suffer from the fact that no one really knows what his strong suit is. Yeah. If you'd asked me before this series, I would have said his late order batting. Now we've seen this series, it's his ability to bowl on these kind of low, not low because there was bounce on these wickets, but on maybe Romario is suited for subcontinent pitches in terms of bowling. Didn't Romario get quite a big stint in IPL this year, actually bowling as well? So maybe there's an argument to say that Romario's bowling suits subcontinent conditions. So we have to give him his praise. You have to give him his credit. I guess both you and I sweat because we never know what Romario Shepherd is going to show up. But we have to give him credit when credit is due. Holder and Hussain are obviously our world-class bowlers at this level. People criticize us for saying world-class, but in the context of West Indies, there are world-class options. Then you have Romario, that's 3. My issue is this, Santokie. Right now, if you're asking me who is the most effective spinner in T20 cricket on form out of Chase, Pierre, and Moty, I'm going to Chase before I'm going to the other 2, right? Not in terms of taking wickets, but in terms of you'd trust Chase to bowl to a plan and keep it tighter, right? Yeah. We haven't got that much time to find anyone else, Santokie. I'm not expecting them to find anyone else. So what do we do then in terms of that third spinner? Like, do we just keep trying with Moty and Pierre and wait for one of them to just become good ahead of the World Cup? Because the reality is, I'm thinking straight off the top of my head, I'm thinking back to CPL straight off the top of my head without looking at any stats and trying to work out, is there anyone else you could try now? But it's almost too late to do all that. The squad, 90% of Sammy's squad should already be fixed by now. So it's too late to look at anyone else.
Yeah, I mean, the only other options, if we're looking at the Nepal series, they could have maybe brought in Fabian Allen to come in as a try him out, because we know what he's done in the past, but that was many years ago. Looks like the Badesi has the leg spin experiment's over. I thought they might have taken him to Bangladesh following in the Nepal series, but he's playing Super 50, so I think they don't want to pull the trigger on calling him up for senior internationals again. So as you said, I think for Sammy, it's just hoping and praying that Moty or Pierre can kind of develop ahead of that. I don't know what plans are in place for them. But yeah, it is a cause for concern, because in India, you're going to need 2 spinners bowling effectively. We've got a surplus of fast bowlers. I mean, we've even got an Obed McCoy we can call on as well to come in. But in terms of spinners, those are going to be key. And those are big questions for Sammy. The problem is, heading into New Zealand and in South Africa, we don't have any more series that will mimic Indian conditions. So it's a case of, unless they're going to send more players to, like an academy in Chennai to work on it again over the next few months, there's not really, that was it for Sammy. This is it now. You just got to sort of see how things go in terms of our spinners. So that's a massive sort of question mark for him. And as you said, Mash, other than Evan Lewis, I guess there's not really anyone else who you think is an obvious candidate to come in to this group of players. So as you said, 90% of these guys will be representing West Indies at the World Cup.
So let me just ask you this then. Let's wrap it with this. Obviously the 3-0 win, excellent. Like we said, Hope, no words needed. Chase did his gap filler role to perfection today. Powell had a really good knock in game 1, I think it was, or game 2, can't remember which one. Holder did his job, Shepherd did his job, Akil did his job, Seals to an extent did his job. Let me put you on the line now, Santokie, because New Zealand is 5 days away. They must be leaving. They must have left already to go to New Zealand, right? Let me just ask you this. Right now, as we go to New Zealand, first game versus New Zealand, let's say everyone's fit. Just answer this question for me. King or Athanase or Amir Jang? Sorry, hold on. Lewis isn't there, forgot. Who are your 2 openers out of King, Athanase and Amir Jangu?
I still think you're going with King and Athanase. I think King was tried at 3 today and Jangu came in because the series was 1. But I think if you're looking at, of the squad, the first choice opening, I think Sammy's still going to go with King and Athanase, right? So I can't see Jangu breaking out. I think we play 5 T20s against New Zealand, so
True.
Jangu will come in at some point. But I think to start with, if usually first match of the series, you go with your best 11, I think we'll see King and Athanase start. But yeah, I heard we land in New Zealand on Sunday, and then the first match is on Wednesday. So no training out here, straight fighting that jet lag against New Zealand.
2 days fighting jet lag, then straight onto the pitch. No, but seriously, the schedule is absolutely crazy. But that's for another show. We're going to do a New Zealand review, people. And then last one, Santokie, you said King and Athanase to open in the first game in New Zealand. Rutherford, one more spot. Rutherford or Geese or Jangu to go in the middle order.
I still think he's going to persevere with Rutherford, What do you
reckon
think?
he comes back in?
Yeah.
So you don't think Auguste now gets a run because he scored a 50?
But then are we going to be chopping and changing, man, based on 1 T20 game? This is my thing, right? Surely Sammy's got a set plan. Because then if you're going with Ackeem, you're basically saying every match your place is on the line out here. Like if someone, so I think he'll go with Rutherford. But again, it could be one of those things. Yeah, he could try Auguste and then bring in Rutherford. Either way, I think they'll both get a crack because it's 5 T20s, right? So I think at the end of those 5 T20s, everyone would have had a fair enough shot to say, all right, cool, this is what I'm about. Obviously, New Zealand is different conditions. So again, it will be who can adapt, who can fight the jet lag quicker, who can adapt quicker in completely. If you're looking at 2 contrasting conditions, what we saw the mud pitches in Bangladesh compared to, the grass we'll see in New Zealand, opposite ends of the spectrum, right? So it's about the team being able to adapt. As you said, the schedule is mad. So I'm not expecting much from the New Zealand series just because of the schedule, the quality of opposition, the conditions. But it is what it is. You never know with West Indies. Well, we might leng them down 5-0 out here. All right, final one, we'll come on with cuss out Mash. Mash in his preview said we're going to get beaten. I know we're bad, but the ball is round. Anything can happen at top or bottom teams. Stay positive, brother Mash.
So let me answer that, Santokie. So I'm going to hold. I was waiting.
Listen to the preacher.
I was waiting for the first person to say, "Hold on a minute, Mash. You said West Indies would lose this series." So I just want to firstly hold my hands up and say, yeah, going into this series, I said that we'd lose either 3-0 or 2-1. But if you go back and watch the preview of this series, I said if Bangladesh put up a pitch like what they put up in the ODIs, we will lose, because we'd shown in the ODIs that we can't bat on those mud pitches. In fairness to Bangladesh, the pitches in Chattogram were truer. They were truer pitches to bat on, so it evened up the playing field somewhat. It wasn't out and out. It wasn't out and out spin paradise for Bangladesh to just laying us down. So if I'd known that beforehand, I might have been more confident to say West Indies can win it. The only other thing I will say, Santokie, because we haven't touched on it, and I think we should just touch on it before we go. The fielding across games 2 and 3 from both sides were absolutely comical, right? We're talking like schoolboy under 15 fielding at time. And that's both teams. Remember, in game 2, West Indies collapsed from 105 for 1 to 149 all out or something like that. And in today's game, Bangladesh lost their last 7 wickets for 35 runs. And in the midst of all that was pure drops from West Indies whilst they were collapsing. And when we collapsed, pure drops from Bangladesh, right? So it sounds like a bit of a negative. I don't mean it to be, but there is a tiny part of me across these last 2 games where I was like, you can't drop chances like that and expect to compete against top sides. They'll punish you for those drops. We were able in one of those games to basically drop 4 chances and still beat Bangladesh.
Yeah.
So I just wonder, I don't know if am I being harsh, Santokie, by saying you won't get away with that at the top level?
Yeah, I think if this was against India or, even like an England, Australia, you'd get punished for those drops, right? You got to take it. So, as you said, it wasn't the highest quality match between full member nations, but it is what it is. We can only beat who we play. And I think the thing with T20s is there's such fine margins in terms of how the match can go. One person can essentially determine the outcome. It's always going to be hard to correctly predict sort of how T20s go. More so than tests, you can pretty much gauge, because over 5 days, the best team usually wins over 5 days. But T20, the margins are finer. And that's why West Indies are probably, in the modern era, better suited for T20 cricket overall. So we'll wrap up there. We're going to do, for those of you commenting, we're going to do a New Zealand preview show. Obviously, a lot of big talking points ahead of that one. Look out for that one in the next 48 to 72 hours. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, Instagram, X, TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook, patreon.com. But most importantly, as we said, follow the link below, supportjamaica.gov.jm to support, Jamaica after the devastation caused by Hurricane Melissa. Mash, I'll hand over the final word to you.
Yeah, so a couple people reached out to me today, earlier in the week, saying, are there any other ways to donate in terms of helping with the hurricane? And there's a potential thing that I'm going to be working with. I don't want to say too much, potentially involving a West Indies cricketer, in terms of former West Indies cricketer, in terms of promoting something that you can do to help. So look out for that. But in the meantime, people, as Santokie says, will use official government lines in the meantime, and just give what you can, people. My biggest fear coming out of that hurricane has come true, which is that what would happen in the coming days when the real stories, the real pictures and videos started to come out from the communities in Jamaica that are just cut off. So the pain and the damage is not over by any stretch of the imagination, people. So any little bit that you can help and give to helping Jamaica's rebuild and reconstruction would be very much appreciated. Listen, I've been Machel St. Patrick Hewitt. Santokie's been Santokie. We'll be back very, very soon. We're going to do a preview ahead of the New Zealand tour, which starts in about 10 seconds. So we'll do a preview, show of that one. And we'll be back very, very soon. In the meantime, peace.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.